Welcome back, everybody, to Sixers Digest. My name is Casey Brennan. I'm here with Sean Barnard, and we have so much to get into. Sean, did you wake up to this video as well?
Yeah, it was not a pleasant wake-up seeing James Harden directly calling the president of basketball operations a liar in a more aggressive way than I've ever seen. We kind of have been through the ringer. You posting your breakdown on the report of the Sixers taking him off the trade market. I dropped my video yesterday after Harden's comments. If we want to just watch this video as kind of a refresher real quick for James Harden, and then we can get fully into it. But yeah, not a pleasant way to wake up whatsoever.
No.
He's a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say it again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
Even hit us with the "let me say it again," Casey.
I know.
So I know you've been a little bit more of a Team Harden guy than I have throughout the kickoff of this. What's kind of your immediate reaction to that? And do you think that there's any chance that this is repealable? Or like me, do you think that that is for sure the final straw of Harden digging his heels in?
No, this is definitely the final straw. Like, I mean, in the back of my mind, there was definitely a part of me that was like, oh, there's going to be drama. Like, this is James Harden we're talking about. Like, you know, I mentioned before, I'm a little bit of a James Harden stan. But this is also very much like a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of situation, because he's been a diva before. We all know this. It's actually not fool me twice. It was fool me 3 times now. So, but at the same time, I'm seeing, you know, I just saw PJ Tucker come out and post like a real cryptic, like, supporting Harden. I'm like, what is going on with this organization? Like, part of me just wants to take a step back right now, because nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes, but just from all of this, it's just an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing to me is nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes, and that really, in my opinion, like makes or breaks who's right in this situation. And I know James Harden directly calling him a liar. He has not said exactly about what. We can kind of infer that there's 2 different situations that he could be referring to, and it could even be both. And number one, the facts are that James Harden did opt out of the player option last offseason. He could have opted in for $47 million. He did take a significant pay cut to allow the team to sign guys like PJ Tucker and Daniel House. I think the expectation on Harden's end, whether it was clearly said by Daryl Morey or not, was that Harden would receive a long-term deal for significant money and kind of get it on the back end here. And then when the conversation comes to the sign and trade or him opting in and trading, was the conversation on the end of him telling Daryl Morey, look, I'll opt in if you agree that you will trade me. And then that was in response to Morey taking him off the trade market. Or was that more of Harden just kind of assuming he would get his way? Were the Sixers not prepared for him to launch that plan? And was that never set in stone? Because if it was just Harden opting in, which is very possible in my mind, that this was the route that would secure him the most money, so it makes sense for him to opt in regardless. If he just did that and then hoped the Sixers would find a way to trade him, that's not entirely fair to Morey either. So I do think what those conversations were strongly dictate who's right in this situation. But regardless, it is not a good spot that these Sixers are in.
No, yeah, I've seen a lot of talks of essentially, you know, if you signed into a contract, at the end of the day, no matter what hush deals were said or agreements that were made, you know, behind the scenes or not in contract, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you signed a contract, you know what's going to happen, and you know that it's your last year and that you are bound to play for the Sixers, or you try and pull Ben Simmons. I don't even know if that's possible. I mean, what excuse is he going to use? He can't use back pain. That's too obvious, you know?
The hamstring's already hurting.
The hamstring? That's
for sure.
I feel like that's going to be like what we take bets on, is what injury is going to be faked or blown out of proportion.
I mean, the thing that I will say about James Harden is you can say what you want about him as a player, what you want as him as his off-court habits. He is the Michael Jordan of forcing himself away from teams. He's got an unlimited bag of tricks that he can dig into and find ways. I mean, seriously, this is innovative stuff. I've never in my lifetime seen a player directly call the president of basketball operations a liar to a group of Chinese children who are
Twice.
playing basketball for a hero. So I don't know. I'm impressed with the creativity. He's finding a way to get it done, but this is very frustrating. And the thing that I do want to harp on that is different from the Ben Simmons situation is at the time of the Ben Simmons situation, Simmons was 25, 3-time All-Star. He could be talked into like, okay, maybe this guy just needs to change of scenery to bring out the best of him. That has not proven to be the case in Brooklyn thus far, but there was at least the mindset of like, there could be more to be tapped into for this guy. For James Harden, he is who he is, and he is showing his true colors once again, and also like him very much on the decline at 33 years old, about to turn 34, and he's also going to be a free agent at the conclusion of this offseason regardless, assuming that he shows up and plays for the Sixers because they could control his destiny if he does hold out to that extent. Simmons, on the other hand, had 4 more years on the deal, so there was more of a willingness from Morey to kind of wait it out. I just don't see that same luxury of having that time with Harden. And this is still just more time since Joel Embiid continues to get older and less assets to work with. So all these things, it feels like a less hopeful situation to me.
Yeah, I was reading your Twitter actually, and you made a really good point about like the comparison with Ben Simmons and James Harden and how the trade value now, especially after this, it's just like looking at the tube, like James Harden just absolutely plummets because you're right, like Ben Simmons, it very much seemed like Ben Simmons was like, no, this is a Sixers problem. I'll play, but I just don't want to play for these guys. But James Harden has a history of doing this. Like, you know, who's going to want to sign him for anything less than possibly a year deal? Because that's been his track record for the past 3 years. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think like as a GM, like, do you want to take on not even just we've talked about the responsibility of taking him on as a kind of bit of a wild card player anyways, you know, does amazing in the playoffs one game and the next game he just isn't. So that's already a wild card. And then you have to deal with like the persona. You got to deal with the wishy-washiness of just even staying with a team. I mean, he's just such a diva. I love it, but now it's personal. Now that he's on my team, I'm like, shoot, I get it. I understand.
I think the style of basketball is something that's very noteworthy to me, is that Harden's not a guy that you can pick up on, put on any roster, and he makes them better. That he's got a very niche style of play. He needs the ball in his hand a ton. He has to be able to create, and there's things that he is excellent at. Like, I'm not saying that he's not good. You put him in any pick and roll situation, I would argue he's still the number one pick and roll decision maker across the entire NBA, both from a scoring aspect and especially from a playmaking aspect. He led the NBA in assists last year, but there's just not that many teams when you look around that it's like he's a clean fit on that, because you got to think it has to be a team lacking guard play. It has to be a team kind of in the contending window that they could at least justify trading for James Harden. And you also have to have personnel defensively to cover up for his weaknesses in this area. So when I kind of look around the league, and this also frustrates me when looking for a trade match, is there's very limited options for teams that would actually make sense for him to be traded for. And it makes it even harder to get a deal done when he is actively telling everyone that he only wants to play for one specific team, that being the Los Angeles Clippers. So it's kind of like I see the crossroads from both sides of James Harden clearly wants out of here, but Daryl Morey's dug his heels and has made it clear that he's only going to operate in the best interest of these Sixers, which, by the way, is his job to do. So he's going to keep holding out for the right value, and I don't see it changing, especially I don't see the market getting better if we're going to continue to have these kind of things popping up from Harden.
Mm-hmm. Were you expecting, like, not this exactly, because I don't think anybody could, but were you expecting drama this early and to this magnitude?
I expected a source off. I expected there continue to be Harden sitting down with Sam Amick and dropping comments like this while Daryl Morey drops some news to Woj and drops this. That's what I expected. I did not think that he was going to pull the direct Daryl Morey is a liar card. That was well above. But to me, like, it was, we know who James Harden is. For Daryl Morey, who should know James Harden better than just about anyone, to think that he would just move in silence for this, that's just not him. I mean, he's done this at 2 locations. He did this in Houston. He directly said to the media in Houston that, I don't know what more I can do. I need to be traded. I don't see a way where I can improve this franchise. I've tried everything I can try. And then in Brooklyn, we saw in both cases, we saw the really not trying on the court either. That was my biggest fear. I did not want that to bleed onto the court from the Sixers perspective. It's still not on the table, so still could happen. I'm not counting it out. But yeah, I expected some sort of James Harden forcing the hand. I didn't think he would go to this extreme depth because I really have never seen a player just go at a general manager's neck like that.
No, and I mean, I kind of brought it up with, like, Fool Me Once. I really did have an optimism that something might have changed just because it would have been such a great look for James, like, if he was serious about getting traded, if he just waited 1 year. Like, he wouldn't even really have to play that well, but if he put out a statement that was like, I signed a contract and I'm going to fulfill my 1 year contract, but please know, I'm still, like, I'm trying to get out of here as soon as possible. He could have had, like, you know, a mid-season trade. He could have really changed, you know, his persona, saying, you know, he's matured a little bit. But I don't know. It's obviously, I was very wrong. I had far too much optimism, but I don't know. It's hard to defend this.
Yeah, and that was definitely the best case scenario that Daryl Morey was absolutely hoping for. And honestly, personally, I hope that both sides could look in the mirror and realize that was the best chance. That as I mentioned, I don't see another team where James Harden plays as significant as a role as he is right here in Philadelphia, still on a contender. And I also don't see a world where the Sixers can upgrade from James Harden and find a player that increases their championship chances more. Do I think he's perfect? Do I feel confident as him being a second fiddle to Joel Embiid? Not really. But do I see a better option out there? No, I don't either. So I think that was kind of the conversation that had to be had was, look, this isn't perfect. Neither of us love where we're at, but I don't see a better option for either one of us from either outlook. And I think Harden has a better view of the grass is greener. I think the Sixers are a little more limited as far as, like, there's just not that many more things that they can do to extend the window and keep giving this team a chance. I mean, we have Joel Embiid changing his Twitter, taking the processing and Philadelphia, PA out of his Twitter bio, which that's the biggest factor in this is we can't let this bleed into upsetting Joel Embiid. God bless him. I appreciate that he is hanging in there, but, like, I don't even blame him for being upset. And he's not blameless in this entire situation as a whole, but this all crumbles and we're in a full rebuild if he's a guy that's saying, I want out next.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be you or me who's going to be covering it, but I think we need to make a whole video on just every player's cryptic tweets or cryptic Instagram stories, because I didn't realize the Sixers are, like, the kings of cryptic social media posts. I thought this was normal. I think that other teams don't do this. Other teams don't put sad tweets out there.
Is ranking of all-star stats in that category. There's no doubt about that. So I guess I kind of respect it. They give us things to talk about, but yeah, it is very frustrating how the lack of basketball I feel like I'm talking about surrounding this basketball team at the moment.
Right. I wonder how the people at Celtics Digest and Raptors Digest are doing. We're over here having a damn therapy session.
Yeah. The brightest spot of this offseason for me has been them picking up an undrafted free agent in Terkavion Smith, who I absolutely love. That's been about it. Patrick Beverley, I guess I'll take it. Mobamba, whatever. But, like, it's really been bleak from an offseason perspective. And even Daryl Morey's on-record pleas of, like, don't even worry about the roster right now. It's going to look way different. We have to look at something. Like, the season's not that far away. And it's really just, like, every angle I try and look at it or every outlook I try and bring up, it just depresses me that I don't see much room for up, and it's going to be on Daryl Morey to pull something out of his hat here. This is why he was brought in, to get creative, find something outside the box, and that box better not include another former Houston Rocket.
All right, last question for you. Do you think, what is more likely, that James Harden will somehow be a Sixer this year, or he'll be a CBA All-Star?
So I'll start with the logistics of it. Of if he holds out for more than 30 days, these Sixers can prevent him from going into free agency and ultimately dictate the future of his basketball career. I think him and his people around him are too smart and too educated on this situation that they won't allow that to happen. So I will go with him playing for the Sixers because I do think Daryl Morey is crazy enough to call his bluff. I don't think that's the right move. I don't think James Harden's the guy that you kind of go head-to-head with here. I like that Daryl Morey has that in his bag. He's a guy that's willing to stand the punches, but I just don't think this is the situation to do it in. So I will ultimately say that it's more likely he suits up for the Sixers. I don't think the chances of that are zero, but I definitely don't think we're getting the best version of James Harden if that's the case.
All right. Is there anything else you want to mention before we head off?
Yeah, no, I think that's it for me. I'll toss the reins to you for your final thoughts, and you can wrap it up.
I guess, I don't know. I don't want to automatically assume anything because I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the video, nobody really knows what's going on behind the scenes. And especially with a lot of the other Sixers players seeming to at least lean toward this is an organization problem, not a James Harden problem. I don't want to assume like it's just James Harden being James Harden. There's probably so many layers to this that us as fans will literally never know. So I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible, but boy did my boy James make it difficult to do that. So yeah, I guess we'll see you next time when we're decrypting all of the Sixers tweets that we gotta get through. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you stay up to date on all things 76ers. I'm Casey Brennan. See you guys next time.